Hello, and welcome to the 2020 Old Dominion University Darden College of Education and Professional Studies virtual State of the College address. I am Interim Dean Tammy Dice, and I am excited to launch our upcoming academic year. We have gone through a lot of changes in 2020, not the least of which is the retirement of our beloved Dean Jane Bray. Add to that COVID-19 and national events highlighting issues of racial injustice, and it is hard to believe we are still standing. And yet, we are. Most of you know the legend of the phoenix that lives for 500 years before spontaneously bursting into flames and descending into a pile of ash. Yet out of these ashes rises a young phoenix that begins anew. The phoenix exemplifies resilience and transformation, which is symbolically relevant for the college as we have been confronted with so many challenges. But we are not being held back. Instead, we are adapting, thriving, and innovating. In addition to the endless preparations for establishing safe reopening strategies, our faculty have been hard at work responding to COVID. In departments such as communication disorders and special education and counseling and human services, faculty created virtual opportunities for students to practice skills that allowed them to meet their required internship hours. And when the pandemic hit, students in teaching and learning created virtual lesson plans for local elementary schools, and now these plans are being made available to school divisions statewide. And to top it off, faculty from the Higher Education and Community College Leadership Program in EFL hosted a virtual hooding ceremony, complete with drive-bys and full regalia. It is worth noting that faculty across all of the departments have been conducting op-eds, blogs, videos, and online presentations on all kinds of topics related to dealing during COVID, from addressing coping skills and exercise to considering the direct impact on women scholars, K-12 students and educators, and even foster children. When there is a need, our DCEPS faculty step up. They did this throughout the year prior to COVID too. These next slides will note all kinds of great things that happened in each department this past year, and I'll just draw attention to one or two. In communication disorders and special education continues to obtain grant funding in these tough economic times, garnishing over $4 million last year and receiving extensions on 2 U.S. Department of Education funded grants. In counseling and human services, the Human Services Program was awarded a $900,000 U.S. Department of Health and Human Services grant to support students' training in substance use disorder treatment. Plus, the graduate program in counseling was awarded another full 8 years of KCREP accreditation, which speaks to the excellence of the program and the high caliber of faculty. In educational foundations and leadership, 2 faculty, Dr. Rachel White and Dr. Tony Perez, were awarded highly competitive and prestigious Spencer Foundation grants. This is unprecedented in the college's history. Faculty in EFL also published 49 peer-reviewed articles, with 75% of these being published in high-ranking journals. Impressive. And in human movement sciences, Justin Hagel was awarded a grant from the U.S. Department of Education for over $850,000, and Chris Sikowski received a $317,000 grant from the National Park Service. Also noteworthy is sport management graduate student Mufu Taiwo, who was the driving force to organize the ODU March for Justice to protest the death of George Floyd and other Black Americans. Approximately 300 people participated in the march, including President Broderick and other leaders from across the ODU campus. And in STEM education and professional studies, the Master of Library and Information Studies program was granted candidacy status by the American Library Association, which will allow them to begin the rigorous process toward accreditation. ODU is the only higher education institution in the Commonwealth to offer the MLIS degree to professionals seeking careers in various library settings. And in teaching and learning, Writing the Rainbow is an initiative created by Drs. Dunkerley Bean in Crompton, Kathleen Rhodes in Women's Studies, and doctoral candidates Valerie Taylor and Julia Morris. Their aim is to disrupt heteronormativity while increasing undergraduate teacher candidates' proactive efforts at inclusivity with LGBTQIA+ students and families. As a result of creating multimodal materials for their future classrooms, the undergrads feel better prepared to serve this population. I also cannot overlook the tremendous achievement of obtaining CAPE accreditation for our educator preparation programs. Under the leadership of Associate Dean Dr. Maggie Barber, faculty and staff from the Darden College of Education and Professional Studies, the College of Arts and Letters, and the College of Sciences worked endless hours to prepare the self-study and conduct a successful site visit. Most noteworthy is the fact that we received accreditation with no areas of improvement, which speaks to the extraordinary quality of the educator prep programs. And our DSUP staff have had an incredibly productive year too. The Children's Learning and Research Center was able to continue providing services to children of essential workers throughout the pandemic. They've gone to extraordinary lengths to meet state safety guidelines to remain open. Can you imagine keeping little ones 6 feet apart? The Career and Advising Resource Center, under the direction of Trey Mayo, didn't skip a beat when we went to teleworking due to COVID either. They pivoted to virtual advising overnight and have ultimately conducted more advising appointments this past year than any other college advising center at the university. The Office of Clinical Experiences, under the direction of Rebecca John, coordinated more than 1,500 clinical placements for undergraduate and graduate students and will continue to support high-quality field experiences under the new direction of Valerie Taylor. Our immersion program, under the direction of Michael Ruffin, has partnered with faculty in Counseling and Human Services to design 13 new virtual reality simulations and will expand outside of the college this year by partnering with Communication Disorders and Special Education to provide immersive VR training experiences to support students with disabilities across Hampton Roads. And the Teacher in Residence program, under the direction of Dr. Kayla Burrell-Kraft, graduated 16 residents this August and recently onboarded 22 residents for the 2021 school year. The TIR program was also awarded a Black Educators Initiative grant from the National Center for Teacher Residencies. Dr. Kayla Burrell-Kraft and Lateria Scott, Executive Assistant to the Dean, were accepted to present on racial micro and macroaggressions at the American Association of Blacks in Higher Education. And Lateria Scott is also representing the college as a committee member on the President's Task Force for Inclusive Excellence and several other university organizations. Also noteworthy is Susan Craig, the Human Movement Sciences Office Manager. When we had to convert courses to online in the spring and everything was backordered, Susan went above and beyond to shop at local stores for webcams and microphones for her faculty. We value the indispensable efforts of our staff and have been so impressed with their flexibility through the challenges of COVID. We're particularly grateful to them for staffing our college this fall. Because of them, we will have a live presence for our students and visitors in the DSUPs. It's also my distinct pleasure to highlight those who receive promotions and tenure. A very warm congratulations to these hardworking and accomplished faculty members. And did I mention this was the year for change? While Dean Bray transitioned to the golf course, 4 other exceptional leaders stepped out of their roles too. We will be forever grateful to them for their significant contributions to the college. Dr. Gail Dickinson as Associate Dean for Graduate Studies and Research and Grandmother Extraordinaire. Dr. Stacy Raymer as Department Chair of Communication Disorders and Special Education. Dr. Lynn Reidinger as Department Chair of Human Movement Sciences, and Dr. Steve Myron as Department Chair of Educational Foundations and Leadership. And we are also grateful to our new leaders. As I said earlier, the Darden College of Education and Professional Studies is resilient, and these fantastic new leaders are diving right in. Dr. Lamar Reams is serving as Interim Associate Dean for Professional Studies and Research. Dr. John Abobzian is the new Department Chair for CDSE. Dr. Shihad Ju is the new Department Chair for HMS. And Dr. Shauna Pribish is serving as Interim Department Chair for EFL. Continuing with our theme of resilience and change, the Darden College of Education and Professional Studies has committed to focusing on disrupting systems of racism and oppression. At last year's State of the College address, Dean Bray identified college goals of diversity, inclusion, and equity, and aligned with these goals, this past academic year, we conducted an intentional diversity hire And now Dr. Mario Amici is starting his second year as a visiting assistant professor in the college. We also conducted a college-wide read of the book White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo to promote cultural and self-awareness. The White Fragility Read Committee developed and led efforts to process the book through open forums, department meetings, and on Blackboard. Nicole Hannah-Jones, the Pulitzer Prize-winning reporter for the New York Times and creator of the 1619 Project, was also scheduled to speak last spring. Since COVID got in the way, we've moved her speaking date to this fall. Please mark your calendars for Wednesday, September 16th, and keep an eye on your inbox for more information, as this is a Zoom event you will not want to miss. Our efforts to address the goals of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the DSEPs did not end last year. In fact, the recent outrage throughout our country against continued systemic oppression has mobilized us into action even more. We are listening to our faculty and staff of color, and we are well aware that systemic changes are needed. We've made a distinct commitment to continue to advance the goals of the college and achieve tangible outcomes this academic year and beyond. The commitment is embodied in our new college diversity statement, co-written with our Director of Faculty Diversity and Retention, Dr. Narkita Sparkman-Key, and with input from many across the college. It is highlighted in this video. Active listening.
Growing.
Self-reflection.
Allyship.
We stand in solidarity.
We stand for humanity.
We stand for justice.
We are committed to diversity and inclusion.
We speak up.
We call out discrimination and injustices.
We include all voices in our decision making.
We become change agents.
We are allies.
We use self-reflection
And self-awareness to overcome biases.
Because in Old Dominion University's Darden College of Education and Professional Studies,
Racial justice and equality matters. Change begins with us.
Let's take action.
to advance our diversity statement and work toward our goals of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the Darden College of Education and Professional Studies, we are also very proud to be launching the new Diversity Center in the college. The Diversity Center will house the existing Office of Faculty Diversity and Inclusion, directed by Dr. Sparkman-Key, as well as our new center, the Alliance for Equity-Based Research and Practice, directed by Dr. Steve Myron. The center will address community-engaged research and practice to impact system change within the college, K-12 education, and agencies and industries related to our professional studies majors. In addition, we have big plans to produce important results that will be led by the Allied Committee, formerly the White Fragility Read Committee, in collaboration with the College Diversity Committee. The intent is to include faculty and staff in continued dialogue to surface and address systemic barriers, promote a more inclusive and equitable community, and support social justice in the professional disciplines for which we prepare our students. Ultimately, we will not let COVID or civil unrest hold us down in the Darden College of Education and Professional Studies. In fact, we are motivated to collaboratively forge ahead with will, resiliency, and an impassioned purpose to produce meaningful and important research, prepare exceptional professionals through our programs of study, and make a difference in our community. Here in the DSEPs, in the words of Representative John Lewis, we will never ever be afraid to make some noise and get in good trouble, necessary trouble. Thank you. And on behalf of the Darden College of Education and Professional Studies leadership, have a wonderful and productive academic year.